Hello, we are going to be going over the Bill of Rights today. This is a two-part lesson. This session will be part one. The objective for this lesson is to learn what the Bill of Rights are and be able to summarize them. Also, you will understand their historical and present significance. The schedule is we'll engage in a discussion with a classmate, friend, or parent, and you will write down your answers and submit them to me. A 3-minute guide to the Bill of Rights YouTube video, and then you'll finish off with an activity that will be due next session. For this activity, you will research an assigned amendment, create an 8x11 poster, and you'll submit the poster with a summary of the amendment. Okay, so here are some questions I would like you to discuss with somebody else. This could be a classmate, this could be a friend of the same age or older, or you can talk about this with your parents. 1. What did Americans fear most about Great Britain? Why did this lead to the Revolutionary War? And 2. Do you think it was important for Americans to ensure their rights with a new American government? And why? Now is a good time to pause and chat with somebody else. Okay, now that you've talked about these two questions with somebody else, hopefully you remember from the last lessons that the Americans feared that the British were completely dictating and controlling their way of life. They didn't have the colonists didn't have an opinion in the government, but were forced to pay a high level of taxes. They were limited in how far they could expand west. And this is very important because the colonists felt that the British were confining them into the eastern part of the continent so that they could better control them in case that there was a military feud. And do you think it was important for Americans to ensure their rights with a new American government? Now, this is up for opinion, but hopefully you've thought about the life you have now and the rights that you have as an everyday citizen. Being able to express your opinion. When you're 18 years old, you'll be able to vote for the person you want to be in office. Stuff like that. Stuff like that is what the colonists did not have. Okay, now we're going to watch a 3-minute guide to the Bill of Rights.
The first 10 amendments to the U.S. Constitution, also known as the Bill of Rights, were ratified or passed over 200 years ago. But even though they're a bit, old, these first 10 amendments are still the most debated and discussed section of our Constitution today. So can you remember what they are? Let's take a look. The First Amendment is the freedom of speech, press, religion, assembly, and petition. This may be the most revered of the amendments. The First Amendment protects our rights to say and write our opinions, worship how we please, assemble together peacefully, and petition our government if we feel the need. The Second Amendment is the right to bear arms. The original intent of the Second Amendment was to protect colonists from the invading British soldiers, but it now guarantees that you have the right to own a gun to defend yourself and your property. The Third Amendment is called the Quartering Amendment. It was written in response to the British occupation and as a result of the colonists having to house or quarter soldiers in their homes during the American Revolution. Because of this amendment, our government can never force us to house soldiers in our home. The Fourth Amendment is the right to search and seizure. The police can't come into our home without a search warrant and take our personal property. Today, many concerns have arisen about our rights to privacy and technology. For example, can the government track your location with your smartphone, or can social media postings such as on Facebook and Twitter be used without a warrant? On to the fifth. It's all about due process. You've probably heard the phrase, "I plead the fifth," in movies or on TV. They're talking about the Fifth Amendment, which says that you don't have to take the witness stand against yourself if you may end up incriminating yourself. Okay, we're halfway done. The Sixth and Seventh Amendments are about how the legal system works. If you're accused of a crime, you have the right to a speedy public trial and an impartial jury. You also have the right to a lawyer and the right to take the stand if you choose. This is important because it will prevent the accused from sitting in prison forever and insists that the prosecution proceed with undue delay. The seventh says you have the right to a jury trial where 12 impartial peers decide your innocence or guilt in the courtroom, as opposed to a judge doing it all alone. The Eighth Amendment prohibits cruel and unusual punishment. Is a death penalty cruel? Is it unusual? It's hard for Americans to agree on the definitions of cruel and unusual. The Ninth and Tenth Amendments are called the non-rights amendments. They say that the rights not listed in the Bill of Rights are retained by the people in the states. You have other rights that are not listed in the Constitution, and the states have the right to make their own policies, like instituting state taxes. So, now you know all 10 amendments. Can you remember them all? If not, remember this. The Bill of Rights are a crucial piece of American history. And though society has undergone many changes these past 200 and some years, the interpretation and application of these amendments are as vital today as they were when they were written.
Okay, so hopefully this video is helpful for you understanding what the Bill of Rights are. Remember, it is the first 10 amendments in the Constitution. It's not the entire Constitution, it's not all of the amendments, it's just the first 10, which really solidified the beginning of an organized legal system for us citizens. Now, the purpose of the Bill of Rights, remember, it was to provide an organized set of laws that gave citizens unalienable rights, meaning if you are a citizen of the United States, no matter what, you have this right. Now, obviously, there are some objections here. African Americans did not have a lot of rights that white Americans had at that time, and even though they were trying to look out for all Americans, they seem to have left them out, unfortunately, up until well into the 20th century. So there is some rift with that, but the overall purpose was to provide an organized set of laws that limited the power of the governments. For example, the British were very controlling of what the colonists or the Americans were saying about the British government. You could be killed, you could be arrested for speaking negatively about them. And now, with the First Amendment, you have the right to express your opinion. You have the right to free press. You have the right. You have the freedom of religion. You can practice any religion in the United States here without being persecuted, which is something that the British were not giving the colonists the right to do. And I think very, very one of the most important pieces of this is having the power in opinion, being able to vote, being able to express yourself in what you believe in without being arrested or being prosecuted is huge for Americans. I think it's something that we often neglect and are underappreciative of it, in my opinion. But that is just one example of the purpose of the Bill of Rights. Okay, so the instructions for your assignment are you're going to pick between two amendment choices. I have given you the two choices that you have, and you can pick from one of the two. Remember to be creative with your poster. You can add illustrations, you can provide text with illustrations, you can do it all in illustrations, but make sure in that one page, whether you're using pictures or using words or a combination of both, then you are doing your best to give the picture of what your amendment is about. And there are examples that are being sent to you. And then on top of this, you're required to turn in a one-page summary of your bill. Now, that is if you want to write the summary. You do not have to write. If you notice at the bottom of the screen, it says presentations may be completed entirely digitally using the format of your choice. So you can do a summary on PowerPoint. You can do a summary on video or movie. Or you can use pen and paper. But make sure you're being creative and you're doing all the necessary research with the resources you'll be given via email. The emailed resources are a Constitution handout that has in-depth information about each amendment. It has examples of the assignment that you're asked to complete, and then it'll give you further instructions and amendment choices. After you're done with all of this, for next time, I want you to be able to answer these questions. What amendment was your favorite to learn about? 2, do you believe that the amendments are as important today as they were in the past? And if you wrote the Bill of Rights, would you have added or changed anything? Now, remember, we're going to go into this even further in the next session, but please be prepared to be able to discuss this in our next session. Thank you. If you have any questions about the assignment, please email me.